Shalawam, Shalawam, Yasharahla, Shabbat, Shalawam. All praises be unto thee, O Yahweh, Bahashama, Mashiach, Yahweh Shai. Yasharahla, today we're going to go into the enemies of the Most High, which in turn is the enemy, our enemies. Because we, the children of the Most High God, are hated by all nations as they buck up against our God. So they hated him before they hated us. We must know this and understand that we are persecuted and are deliberately held down by them that hate us. In my previous class, Yasharahla, I went over whether men were called beasts. At the back end of that lesson, I inferred to you who this beast may be. So in this lesson, the enemies of Israel, let's have a look at who the beast is and their allies, because as we learn, he's not alone. So let's go from here, Yasharahla. We shall start in Psalm 83, where the previous class ended, Yasharahla, and we march on forward. And I'll go from 6 and 7 again. Now, that is Psalm chapter 83 and verse 6, Israel. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites, of Moab and the Agarenes. Verse 7. Gebal and Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre, So it mentions a nation. It mentions nations of people there. But what exactly were they doing there? If you just go up to verse 5, it'll explain. For they have consulted together with one consent that they are confederate against thee. To read from the chapter from the top down, it explains that they were plotting against the children of Israel. That's what was happening here. They're plotting against the children of Israel, and they have got a head. They've got a leader. And the leader is the nation of Edom. Okay? So let's go a little bit further and see if we can expound on what I've just said. So we want Ezekiel chapter 28. So it's Ezekiel chapter 28 and 11, and I'll go through to verse 14, Israel. Moreover, the word of the Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith Yahweh, Thou sealest up the sum full of wisdom and perfect beauty. Slakia, Israel, I'll go over that. I butchered it a little bit. Verse 12. Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith Yahweh, Thou sealest up the sum full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Listen carefully now, Yasharahla, as I go through verse 13. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Now, when exactly was the king of Tyrus in the garden of Eden? Never. But the serpent was. This is very spiritual here, Israel. But the serpent was. Again, I'll explain at a later date, but just bear that in mind with me for now, Yasharahla. Verse 13. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering. The sardius, topaz, diamonds, the beryl, onyx, the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabret and of thy pipes was prepared in thee the day that thou was created. Again, when you go back into Genesis, it expresses that the serpent was made subtle and all that, by God. It's saying the very same thing here. I made you so. So verse 14. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Again, I've made you so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of stones of fire. So from there, Israel, we want to go a little bit further now, and we go into First Esdras. Bear in mind from what we've just read here, we are dealing with the enemies of God. It just showed you a second ago that this is from this person, this spirit was in the garden. But Tyrus is a physical king. Again, I says it's very spiritual. This is things that needs breaking down a little bit, which I will have to do in another class, just to be sure that the understanding of it is there, Israel. So again, from Ezekiel we go to First Esdras, and what we want is chapter 5 and 71. First Esdras chapter 5, 71, and I'll read through to 73, Yasharahla. So they went to Zerubbabel. Salakia, Israel. 71. We ourselves alone will build unto the Lord of Israel according as Cyrus the king of Persia has commanded us. But the heathens of the land, lying heavily upon the inhabitants of Judea, and holding them straight, hindered them building. So they were preventing them from building the tabernacle. Okay? And their secret, and by their secret plots, referring now, I bring you back, Yasharahla, to Psalm 83, 6 and 7. From 5 down, where they were confederate against you. The whole idea is to destroy Israel. That is what is referred to here. The same heathens, them people. So from there, Yasharahla, I'll keep going. And this verse 73. And by their secret plots and popular persuasions and commotions, they hindered the finishing of the building all the time that King Cyrus lived. So they were hindered from building for the space of 2 years until the reign of Darius. So this is how long it took. So the people that hate the children of Israel always puts obstacles in front of us to keep us down. Again, read from Psalm 83 downwards. Just read the entire chapter, Yasharahla. The plot, that plot, it's even being revealed here. We are not allowed anything. Anything we want, people want to jump on board on it to tear it down. But there's a reason for it, which Psalm 83 explains. For Israel shall be no more in remembrance. But I go further from there, Israel. We go to 2 Chronicles, Yasharahla, and I want chapter 7 and verse 21. Second Chronicles chapter 7 and verse 21, and I go through to 22, Yasharahla. So verse 21 reads, And this house which is high shall be an astonishment to everyone that passeth by it, so that he shall say, Why has Yahweh done thus unto this land and unto this house? And it shall be answered, Because they forsook Yahweh of their fathers. They forsook Yahweh, God of their fathers, which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshipped them and served them. Therefore has he brought them to this evil upon them. So again, our enemy's goal is to keep us away from the law, statutes, and commandments the Most High laid down. For if we do so, Israel, then they can destroy us. So again, I'm showing you the enemies of the Most High here. The enemies of the children of Israel. For again, they hated him before they hated us. So I will read that again and bear it in mind with the other scripture that I'm going to put on top of this one, Israel. So it reads, Yasharahla, 2 Chronicles chapter 7, 21 to 22. From the heathen standpoint, Yasharahla. And this house which is high shall be an astonishment to every one that pass by it, so that he shall say, why has the Lord done thus to this land and unto this house? And it shall be answered, because they, the Israelites, forsook the Lord God of their fathers, which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, meaning we went off into idolatry, do as the other nations do. It's no good for us. It destroys us. We have to separate. And worship them and serve them. Therefore has he brought all this evil upon them, which is us. So why are we in the situation we're in? Because we are not serving our Father as we're supposed to. However, even the heathens know that if we do not do this, we get punished from the Most High, our God. So the plot then is, Israel, to keep you away from your God, to keep you from serving him, to lead you off into idolatry, for you to go and serve other gods and violate the agreement, law, statutes, and commandments that was handed down unto us. Now let's go further and see if we can expound, I like that, expound a little bit more on what was just read in 2 Chronicles 7. So let's go down to Jeremiah, Israel, and we want 50 and 7. So that's Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 7. So Jeremiah 57 and Jeremiah chapter 50 verse 7 reads, all that found them have devoured them. Their adversaries said, we offend not, because they have sinned against Yahweh, the inhabitants of... I'll read it again, Yasharahla. Because this is what they say. This is genuinely what they say. Verse 7, all that found them have devoured them, and their adversaries said, we offend not, because they have sinned against the Lord, the habitation of justice, even the Lord, the hope of their fathers. So the heathen here is saying, we didn't do nothing wrong. It's them that sin. So whatever come upon them is for them fault. That's basically what the heathen is saying here. But above that, this goes into something that is happening to us right now. We are devoured. We are completely and utterly devoured. So Jeremiah chapter 50 and 7. All that found them have devoured them, and their adversaries, our enemies, said, we offend not, we haven't done nothing wrong, because they have sinned against their Lord, basically. The habitation of justice, even Yahweh, the hope of their fathers. So we have gone against our Father. But again, what if it was designed? What if things were put in place for you to go off? What if people had actually come together to do this? That's what it is. So Yasharahla, I'll close out with Judith, because Judith made the point perfectly clear in regards to what I am actually saying here. So Judith chapter 5. So Judith chapter 5 and 17 verse 21, Yasharahla. Judith chapter 5, 17 to 21. And whilst they sinned not before their God, they prospered. And whilst they sinned not before their God, they prospered, because the God hath hated iniquity was with them. Okay? Verse 18. But when they departed from the way which he had appointed, meaning you come away from these laws, statutes, and commandments, they were destroyed in many battles very sore. and were led captives into slavery, into a land that was not theirs. And the temple of their God was cast to the ground, and their cities were taken by their enemies. Verse 19. But now are they returned to their God, and are come up from the places where they were scattered, because via slavery you get scattered throughout the diaspora, as we say, because we're scattered everywhere. I'll read that again, Yasharahla. But now they return to their God, and are come up from the places where they were scattered, and have possessed Jerusalem, where their sanctuary is, and are seated in the hill country, for it was desolate. We got destroyed. Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error against this people, and they sin against their God, let us consider that this shall be their ruin, and let us go up, and we shall overcome them. So they know that if we are in sin, we can be defeated on every level, because the Most High is not with us while we are dwelling in sin. Now verse 21. But if there be no iniquity, no sin, if there be no iniquity in their nation, let my Lord now pass by, lest their Lord defend them, and their God be for them, and we become a reproach before all the world. So they already know Yasharahla, hence their plot against us. For they know that if we stand upright, nothing that they do can prevail against us. So, as I've said before, Yasharahla, we need to get it right. So, with that, Yasharahla, I bid you farewell. Until next time, Shabbat Shalawam.